Welcome to Aussie LawnStars.
Welcome to the dungeon. It has a window, but it's facing another room, so I've blocked it out. I've put the colourful sheets you can see behind me are all sound deadening, so people can't hear the screaming. So set it up so that it's pretty good for recording, but the downside is I'm sitting here in humidity and there's no airflow.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So people listening to this one, they will recognise you by the name Murat.
Yep.
Murat Gulen. Now, do you go by Murat or do you go by Mark?
I go by Mark.
Yeah.
More because of habit. Because years ago, nobody could say Murat. So every time somebody asked me, and I'd say it,
Yeah.
this is back in the 70s and 80s,
Yeah.
I just got sick of saying what?
Fair
So
enough.
I just said it's Mark, and they go, oh, okay. So it's stuck.
Well, that's a good way to do it then. And that's easy for everyone. But nowadays, there's a lot more
Oh, mine's
awareness.
easy compared to most these days.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
So you're based in Melbourne, right?
sure am.
So I've spoken to a lot of people in Melbourne, but my geography of Melbourne is I know where the city centre is. I kind of know where you're coming in if you're coming from New South Wales into Victoria.
Yep.
And I've been down to Phillip Island. I've been down to the Spirit of Tasmania ferry.
Yep.
So I've got very basic awareness of geography around Melbourne.
Yep.
So help me understand. You are located on the east side, is it?
Southeast.
Southeast?
Yeah, towards Warwick.
So not quite in Will Harford's territory, but close enough.
Where's Will?
Rosebud.
Rosebud, nowhere near, no.
No any.
No.
Yeah, okay. So
Heaps
I think Rosebud's sort of heading down the peninsula, isn't it?
yeah, that's the Mornington Peninsula side.
Yeah, okay.
I do have one job out that way, which I just did today. But
Awesome.
yeah, that's for a company who have other jobs on my side, and they threw that in, so I have to go out that way.
Yeah.
But,
Now,
yeah.
at a guess, your hair colour's still there. I'm going to guess you're maybe my age or a little bit older.
I'm 52.
I've still got hair on my head,
Yeah.
but you can see the grey coming through my facial hair a bit. Oh, yeah, we're very similar there. You're actually my wife's age. I'm 5.5 years younger than my wife. So I'm 46. I'll be 47 in another 6 weeks or so.
Yeah, no, 52 this year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My wife, being 5.5 years older than me, and she was in Queensland when she finished school, and they were doing, they finished school at 16 years of age. So she started uni the year I was in year 6 in primary school.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
my story is very similar. My missus is 6 years older than me.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Awesome.
But
See, the cougar effect is good.
well, you got to have someone with experience to teach you.
That's a good way to look at it. I like that.
That's the way I looked at it.
I needed teaching, but I needed teaching so bad. I'm on my second marriage.
Oh, well, I beat you there. I've been married once, and that's it. So
No,
coming on 32 years, I think. 34.
good on you.
Yeah.
So you've got kids. I think we mentioned that you're mentioning getting your daughter to help you with some technology. So how old are your kids?
I've got a 17-year-old and a 28-year-old and
Yeah.
almost 29-year-old.
Oh, wow. That's almost 12 years gap between the oldest and the youngest.
Yeah, I got sick back then and didn't think
Yeah.
we'll have any other kids.
Okay.
And then all of a sudden, after the operation, this one came along.
There you go. Well, an extra surprise and congratulations.
Yeah, really good. It was a really good surprise.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, so being 52, you would have been finishing school. Did you go through year 12?
No, I left school
Year
in
10?
year 10.
Yeah.
I
So you
finished.
would have been finishing year 10 when I was like in year 3 or year 4.
Was it?
Well, you
Yeah,
would have been finishing around 88 or something like that, maybe 80,
around that. Yeah, around that.
mid
Well,
80s to late 80s.
I finished early.
Yeah.
And
So
then back to do year 11, and I couldn't handle it because I had a job for 12 months.
Yeah,
I got used to the money, so I couldn't go back to school.
that's fair enough. I have nightmares about going back to school.
Yeah, it wasn't for me. It just
I did. I went right through year 11 and 12, so I did the whole lot. But then, yeah, for some reason, I've had a dream somewhat recently where I was back in school trying to get better marks or something.
yeah, subconsciously you want to be a better person. I don't know.
Yeah, who knows?
Don't know.
Yeah.
I've
So
all my life, so
yeah, so when you finished school,
yeah.
you went straight into business, didn't you?
When I finished school, I was 16, and I jumped a bus and I moved to Queensland.
Moved to Queensland.
Yeah, I basically packed a bag and put
Yeah.
$5 in my pocket and left home. And
So see you later, mum and dad.
sorry,
So see you later, mum and dad. I'm out of here.
pretty much that's what I did.
Yeah.
There was nothing wrong with the house. Like, don't get
Yeah.
me wrong, there was nothing wrong with my parents. I
Yeah.
just wanted to see the world, or Australia anyway.
At 16.
At 16, so
Yeah.
I've been working since I was 13.
Yeah.
So
So
I moved to Gladstone for 4 years, and then met my wife, and then moved back to Melbourne.
okay. Yeah.
So I was married at 21.
Yeah. So yeah, that gives you that time you were saying 35 years.
What's that?
You said it was 35 years you've been married?
Yeah, 34. I think it is this year.
34.
We've been
34
together
years.
since I
Yeah.
was 20, so
Yeah. Oh, well. That's
long
good
time,
innings.
mate.
So the first job you did, or the first career you had, I think you were telling me it's in carpets.
Yep, that was my first. I used to get $2 for unloading a truck and $2 for loading a truck for a guy.
Yeah.
That was my job when I was 13. And then when I
Yeah.
turned 16, I left. I worked there part time.
Yeah.
And then I moved to Gladstone. I got a phone call when I was around 20 after I met my wife, and he asked me to come back to work. So I moved back to Melbourne again
Yeah.
with my wife. And then I went full time into carpets with the guy I was working for
Yeah.
previously.
What was Gladstone like when you were up there? Because
I
it's
loved it. That was the
yeah,
best
okay.
time of my life. Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah.
I called it the Goldfish Bowl because you could just basically 15 minutes drive around the whole town back then.
Yeah, okay. Compared
Yeah,
to coming from Melbourne, where it's the big city.
exactly. It was like 5 minutes to the airport, whereas it's 45 minutes from here. You know.
Yeah. Well, I've been up to Queensland a lot of times over the years. So I would say I finished school in 96, 95.
Yeah.
And I think I did a trip to Brisbane just after I finished school and had friends at Logan.
Yeah.
And it wasn't actually a bad place then. But yeah, I've done a lot of trips to Queensland, particularly around Brisbane, and the place has grown. It just seems like people migrate from Melbourne to Brisbane and Sydney to Brisbane every year. It just keeps on growing at a massive
Yeah.
increase in population and
And over
struggles with that.
COVID, they all went after COVID.
Yeah, that everyone was trying to escape Dan Andrews.
100%. That's the truth.
Yeah,
It was.
yep. Yeah, I don't like getting political on the podcast, but it's certainly a lot of friction around that one.
Yeah. Let's not even go there.
Yeah,
Not even go. I can't even handle hearing his name.
yeah, it's over and done with, and I'm
That's
guessing he's moving on. So
Yep. He's gone. Thank God for that.
yeah, yeah. So you spent a reasonable amount of time around Gladstone in Queensland. Did you do any other areas in Queensland, or was it basically move to Gladstone and then move back to Melbourne?
No, I moved to Gladstone, saw Brisbane, saw a few places around the coast up there.
Yeah,
Like travelled a little bit, and that was pretty much it. And then basically got married and came back to Melbourne.
yeah. So what sort of work did you do up in Queensland?
The first job I had was the unemployment office. That lasted about a week.
Yeah,
I just couldn't handle the unemployment side of things.
yep,
And then I got a job on a mango farm.
yeah,
That was weird. Yeah. very weird. I got mango pox.
I was going to say, did you get to eat the fruit? But not. You don't want
No,
to.
and I was allergic to the bloody fruit. So I got
No
sick,
good.
and that lasted about a week. And then I got a job with a company called Bill Robertson Toyota
Oh
in
yeah.
Western. And I went for an interview with about 45 people around my age. And I
Yeah.
thought, how do I get this job? Because all these guys are year 12 and all this, and I'm just a year 10 dropout.
Yeah.
I told the bloke I work for free. And he's like, really? I go, yeah, yeah. I said, I'll work for free. I'll give you 1 week. If you don't like me, don't hire me.
Yeah.
And he rang me about 2 hours later. He said, you got the job. He goes, but I don't want you to work for free. He goes, just come and work. So
Yeah.
I was there for nearly 4 years, 4 years almost.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was detailing cars, and then I moved to spare parts.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah. It was a good time in my life. A lot of fun.
Yeah. Good stuff. So you you came back from Gladstone back down into Melbourne,
Yep.
and that was because you got the job offer down there working for the carpet company.
Yeah, he threw a good offer out, and I'd had enough of Gladstone, and I had enough of the fun and alcohol and this and all the stupid shit you do as a kid.
Oh yeah.
So I thought, all right, we'll come back and we'll do this carpet gig. And then a
Yeah.
year later, he sold the business, and he
Yeah.
said, I've got a guy who wants to buy the business and etc. Which were all lies. He'd got done by the ATO or something. It was
Oh
just
no.
a story, and
Yeah.
I ended up buying it.
Yeah.
And then I found out about the ATO he was in trouble with. So,
Yeah.
but I took it over and basically got kicked out of the warehouse that that I took over with the business.
Yeah.
And then I took it from a business that was doing zero, like
Yeah.
bugger all. But I knew the industry, and then I surrounded myself with a few people that understood the industry,
Yeah.
and yeah, I took it to $1 million plus business.
Nice.
Yeah.
So give me a time frame. I'm going to hazard a guess that when you started back there, it would have been 1990,
Oh,
early 90s.
yeah, early 90s, but I took the business over and actually registered my business name in 96. And I remember that year because it was a great year.
Yep. So
Like,
that was my entrance into the big world after school and your entrance into business.
yeah.
There you go. So, okay. So you took it over in 96. And if I understand correctly, you kept the business going up until almost COVID.
I actually took it all the way to, I struggled for a long time, probably the last, before 2019, about 4 or 5 years when the internet started getting really big. And I'm not good with technology and that. So, the
Yeah.
internet started taking a lot of the business that was,
Yeah.
like they were like, 10% of sales are going to be on the internet, 20% of sales are going to be on the internet. And
Yeah.
it just kept getting bigger and bigger. And I sort of lost momentum, if you get what.
Yeah. Yeah.
And 2019, I basically, I had a lot of stores at one stage. Like I had 3 or 4 stores, and I used to travel overseas and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And 2019 came, and I only had one store left, and I was struggling. And I thought, I've got to do something. So I sold it to a guy,
Yeah.
just, like whatever was left in the shop. And I
Yeah.
walked out, basically.
Okay. So,
But because I knew that was coming, I actually started the lawn mowing 2 or 3 years before that. So I
yeah.
started
Okay.
lawn mowing in 2015
Yep.
on a casual basis.
So that's 9 years after you started running your own business there in the carpet. You started the lawn mowing, and then 4 years later, you left the carpet business.
Sorry, say that again?
So 95 is when you started the lawn mowing. You've been running the carpet business for
No,
about 9 years.
96 is when I started the
Oh, so,
carpet.
yeah. Sorry, we'll get this right.
Yeah.
And then
2019,
2005. Okay, yep. Yeah, so 2015 was when you started the lawn mowing. Sorry.
2015, I started lawn mowing with
Yep.
it with my little lawnmower that I had from home
Yeah,
and
okay.
a few ideas. And yeah, I just did it on a casual basis because my shop was only open 4 days a week, so I had 3 days to kill.
Yeah, okay.
So I used to just go and mow lawns. Like I registered my company and everything, MoPro Melbourne back then.
Yeah.
But I used to just do it casual, 2 days, 3 days.
Yep. So with the carpet business,
Yep.
how much did you put into learning the financial side of things, or did you leave that up to an accountant, bookkeeper to manage?
No, I didn't understand anything about bookwork, but I was lucky my wife had a bit of background in bookwork.
All right.
And then the first year we were in business, had no idea whatsoever.
Yeah.
And I went to an accountant, and just some random accountant. And when he looked at my figures, he freaked out. He goes, "How old are you?" I said, "What was I, 22 or 23 or something?"
Hmm.
And he goes, "If you go at this rate," he goes, "you'll be a millionaire by the time you're 30."
Right.
And I said to him, I go, "Oh, okay." I said, "So what?" And he come up with this massive tax bill. And I said, "I'm doing something wrong." It was massive.
Yeah.
And we're lucky enough that a friend of ours had a good accountant and they recommended them.
Yeah.
And I gave him all the bookwork. And I said, "Look, this I don't know anything about bookwork, taxes, this and that." He
Yeah.
said, you give me all your figures and that, and we'll do it properly, and we'll set up this, and we'll set up a trust, and we'll set up this, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
And he looked after it for us.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
we used to my missus would put it all together and give it to him.
Yep.
So, but nah, me and money, nah. Only buying motorbikes and lawnmowers, whatever. That's about me and money. But yeah,
So you just touched on my favourite topic, motorbikes.
yeah, mine too.
I've created Aussie LawnStars to give you professional help free. And you'll also find Lawn Care Skull Sessions and the Australian Lawn and Garden podcast doing the same thing. On Facebook, you can look up the Lawn Mowing Contractors Australia group or the Australian Professional Contractors group. And if you want help that is personalised and takes you a little bit further, then you should look up Prez Madley. He offers personal coaching, business coaching, and corporate coaching. Email him on thinktankcoaching@outlook.com. You could also book an appointment with my accountants, Prosper Financial, on 0249 773363 if you need help getting your business and bookkeeping in order. I get given a hard time when I talk about motorbikes on the podcast because I end up talking for 45 minutes just on motorbikes instead of talking about lawn mowing businesses. But
Easy.
People need to suck it up because motorbikes need to be talked about.
They do. I agree.
So, do you ride road bikes and dirt bikes?
Yeah, I gave the dirt bikes up at the moment because I've got so much invested in the business. I don't really want to break anything.
Yeah, fair enough. So you must have been pushing the dirt bikes hard enough to be worried about breaking something then.
Yeah, well, I'm getting to the stage where I don't bounce. So, yeah. No, I've got 2 bikes in the shed. I don't ride trail much anymore. I went out a couple of weeks ago just for a bit of a squirt, but no.
Yeah. No, I've got a KTM 250. It's the two-stroke, the earlier fuel-injected one.
Yeah, one of my favourites. Yeah.
I love it. It's that being the 250, it's just a little bit fresher than a 300. They just when they come on band, they hit a little bit better than 300 does because the 300's got more torque down low. The 250 tends to be stronger up the top end, but not quite as much down low.
Well, I was a 4-stroke person.
Yeah.
And started from a 250 TTR, and then I got into the European bikes.
Yeah.
And fell in love with them.
Yeah.
So I've always bought European bikes, but I went up to like 450s.
Yeah.
And I was struggling like with the weight of the bike and all the rest of it. And I took out a CRF 230 the other day.
Oh, yeah.
Mate, it was so much fun. It was like a push bike on steroids. It was just light, you could play with it.
Yeah.
And you had a ball. Like it was a little 230.
Well, I went from a WR 450 to the KTM 250.
Yeah, different.
Same experience. The WR 450 was a blast to ride, heaps of power. You could put it on the back wheel in any gear. But you go to a 252 stroke, and being the European bike, it feels like a mountain bike to throw around, and it's got that playful nature.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. I might go back to a 250.
Yeah.
Because all mine are 450s, so.
Yeah, the 450s are good fun, but I like riding single track a lot. So the single track is heaps easier to ride on a two-stroke.
Oh, 100%. 100%. Yeah. No, it's a bit of an addiction in our household, bikes.
Yeah.
I think I had 7 or 8 in the shed at one stage.
Yeah. Well, I've had, I think about 4 or 5 in the shed at once.
Yeah. I think it's small engines in particular. I like engines, like motor
Yeah.
engines, lawnmower engines, whatever.
Yep.
So it's,
Yeah. I love my road bikes as well, but the road bikes are different kettle of fish to the dirt bikes. I find if I'm riding my dirt bike doing single track, I'm not really worried about hurting myself. But
it,
I'm riding a S1000R on the road, and that thing is a lethal weapon.
I actually found the road bikes, they are dangerous because my son had a big accident 2 years ago.
Yeah.
I like the fact, like, we've started travelling, like to Tassie. We did an 8-day Tasmania trip and things
Yeah.
like that. Seeing the country on a bike,
That's nice, isn't it?
I find that fascinating.
Yeah.
Like, it's a totally different feeling to being in a car.
Oh, yeah. I went down to Tassie at the year end 22 to 23, so it's 14 months ago. And what I did is I rode my motorbike down there with my friend. He rode his bike down, and our wives flew down an aeroplane. They hired a motorhome, and so they drove the motorhome around. We rode the motorbikes around, and we got to sleep in the motorhome at night time.
Perfect.
Yeah, it was great blast. And, like you, seeing Tasmania on the bike is just so good.
It's crazy. I could have spent months there. I loved it.
There's
Hey,
good roads down there.
hey?
There's a lot of good roads down there.
Oh, did you? I actually said to a mate of mine, I go, I reckon the guy who designed these road bikes, like, he thought them out. He's like, oh, I put a big bend at the top of this hill. You know,
Yep.
they're just unreal. They're just magic.
The biggest problem I found is a lot of the roads I looked at on the maps, and I'm like, that looks like it's going to be a really nice windy road going through the mountain. It was dirt.
Oh no,
And
that's
yeah, it's all right if you're on a good adventure bike, but on the road bike with slicks on it, no.
we're lucky. We've got a group of guys. There's about 30 of us, or 30. I think it's up to about 40 now. A little club,
Yeah,
and one of the guys, he organises these trips,
yeah,
and he's just phenomenal. Like,
nice.
from the accommodation to the roads to the what we're doing. He's like an
Yeah,
army sergeant. This is 8:30. You're on the bike. Blah blah blah. He's just unbelievable. This guy.
oh, that's good.
Yeah,
That's what you want.
he makes the trip. He makes it so organised, so safe.
Yeah, awesome. It makes for a great experience then.
Oh, it was incredible. It was one of my bucket list items to see Tassie, and yeah, it was good fun.
Yeah. So what road bikes do you ride?
I've got a Triumph 1050 at the moment,
Yeah.
which is my squirt around the hills up here bike,
Yep.
and then
So is
we've got
that
a
a Tiger?
Tiger 1050
Yep.
Sport Tourer.
Yep.
Got a Capenard, which is a sports tourer with the bags and all the other things that you need when you go
Yeah.
away.
So when you're spending a few nights away, you got plenty of room to put all your
Oh,
changes of underwear.
yeah, I barely use half the bags. It holds so much stuff. Like, you can
Yeah.
really fill it up.
Yeah, no, I got a set of panniers from a BMW when I went to Tassie, and that's just two really small bags, and then strap the swag on top
On
of
the
that.
top.
Yeah, and that way I didn't actually end up using the swag going to Tassie, but I had it, and it was good to be able to go. Okay, I'm set up. I've got what I need.
Yeah.
So time to plan another trip soon.
Well, come down. We'll organise it.
I when I went to Tassie, I looked at doing some of the back roads from through the Victorian High Country.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just didn't have the time to really put aside for doing that. It was just from here down to the Port Geelong and straight on the ferry.
Yeah. That'd be the way to do it.
But yeah, I would love to go down there and do all the high country roads. There's so much to explore down there.
Oh, it's magic. It is.
Yeah,
It is magic. Where I live actually is really nice too. We've got heaps of hills and windy roads and stuff.
yeah,
So it's basically at my back door.
yeah, yeah. I've got friends around Lilydale, if you know where that is.
Yeah, Lilydale's a nice ride from the back of my joint. It's just windy roads all the way up to Lilydale.
Nice.
Well, from Lilydale, they'll probably come this side because
Yeah.
towards Marysville and that.
Yeah. Okay.
It's all bike country out here.
Yeah. Sounds like a good spot to go.
Oh, 100%. It's really
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Did you know that Wright has several different mowers to suit different size properties and different types of work? They range from the cute 32 all the way up to the big 72-inch standard that Kyle loves. Well, all the Wright mowers are built to be used commercially, and they have some great design features to make sure they save your business time and money season after season. Wright have carefully selected each engine to ensure it is very capable yet fuel efficient for the work it's designed to do every day, all day. One of the features that got me over the line with Wright is the AeroCore deck. It's one of the best deck designs in Australia currently, clearing huge amounts of grass when side discharging, while still great for catching, and it mulches well with a variety of blades. I'm about to throw a set of gator blades on and will be sharing my experience for sure.
Well, we should talk about business because that's the primary reason for talking to people and getting them into the dungeon.
Sure thing.
So I want to know more about your lawn mowing business. We've covered your history with the carpet business, and then 2015 you started mowing lawns.
Yep.
And you're doing it
and got
a few
told
days a week.
by my missus, you will never succeed in it.
That's all you need is a bit of fire to prove her wrong, right?
She's yelling that I did not. Because I was an indoor pen pusher.
Yeah.
So she just did not think I'd be an outdoors person.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So 2015, that means you've been mowing lawns for almost 9 years now.
It is 9 years now. Yep.
Yeah. There you go.
Yep.
So when you started up mowing lawns, you were still running the carpet business 4 days, or did you say 3 days a week?
Yeah. No, 4 days I was doing the carpets and 2 to 3 days the lawn mowing. So I've worked all my life 7 days a week.
Yeah.
I only gave it up in 2019. When COVID hit, that's when I gave up work.
Yeah.
So working 7 days, sorry.
Yeah. So when you started the lawn mowing business, doing it part-time, did you fill your time up very quickly with a lawn run?
I won't say, I'd say quickly, but when I looked at the actual profit of what it was leaving, it was bugger all. Because
that's often the way.
It was trying to learn how the system works, and like, can I swear?
You can. I can always beep it out if we really need to. Just go.
A lot of people are full of shit. So it was really getting used at the beginning to do crappy jobs for nothing.
Yeah.
Like most of the guys go through in the industry.
People can smell when you're new in the industry, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna take a full advantage of you, get your lowest rates possible."
Yeah. Promise you this, promise you that, and then the next guy comes along and you got the boot.
Yep. The next one who's willing to do it for less.
Yeah, even $2 that'll do. $5.
Yep.
Yeah, as long as they're cheaper.
Yeah, that's it.
Doesn't matter that you did everything correctly and all the rest of it. So they're the people that I learned at the beginning to get away from as quick as possible.
Yeah, okay. So you did do it though to start with, and then you realised pretty quickly you needed to make more money.
It wasn't make more money. It was the fact that I needed more quality clients that actually understood who I am. Because it's like the carpet industry. There was a lot of people getting into it, but the people that knew me still came to my store, still knew that I did deliveries, still knew that I had the old school business mentality.
Yeah.
But the internet, there was more on the internet than what could come to my store physically. And plus people got lazier over the years. But what I found with lawn mowing is there's only one of me.
Yep.
There's heaps of lawn mowing guys, but there's only one of me.
Yeah.
So unlike gyms and that, I never thought to myself, I want to branch out and get money from a heap of people. I thought, what can I do that nobody else can do? And I said, well, you've got your business experience, you've got your customer relations and all the stuff I've learned over the years.
Yeah.
So that and sell yourself. So that's what I did.
So you found some quality clients by doing that, by marketing yourself to be worth something?
100%.
Yeah. The other thing I'm wondering, when you're selling carpet, you would look at the cost price and wholesale rates, and then you would look at the retail price of carpet, right? And you'd go, okay, say, and I
Yep.
don't know what the margin is on carpet industry, but say it's 30% or something like that. If you
Yeah.
work on a margin, you go, okay, I know if I've got that margin there, that's going to account for a certain amount of labor,
Yep.
plus the cost of insurance and having the shop open and all those things. And so it's kind of a fixed number you can work around with carpet. You don't play around with your retail prices too much, do you?
You don't play around. You do play around with your retail prices. They all do. And there's
Okay.
nobody that works off a 30% margin. It's a load of shit. That is the biggest load of shit I hear from every single retailer out there.
Yeah.
Oh, we make 20% on these lawnmowers. We only make 10% on these cars. We make money off the servicing. That's all crap.
Yeah.
That's just, yeah, like 20% off, and all that kind of stuff. It's like, off what? or one of the, I won't mention the name, you get a free set of tools with this mower. What's the mower worth? 10 grand. Well, I can get it for 8.5 without the toolkit.
And the toolkit's worth $300
Well, if
at
that,
retail.
their retail's 1,500 in theory, but
Yeah.
that's all garbage. But I found with the lawn mowing at the beginning, it was very hard to work out what your figures are.
Yeah.
What you get
Well, you
figures.
don't have that guide to go off, do you? Because in
No.
carpet, you at least have your cost price and your retail price to work off.
Yeah. So I based it off this. Client's attitude was first. So if the client was, I don't know, I didn't really want to work with them, well, the price would be more. If the client, like I've got a guy I did today, Henning, he's a really old bloke, I'd do it for free.
Yeah.
I don't really, it's not the money.
Yep.
And the guy's communication's perfect, his parking's perfect, he's on the money, like pays at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So I work it off that, and I have a formula up here.
Yeah.
So that's how I do it.
Yeah. So good customers are priceless.
100%. 100%.
And bad customers aren't worth the time of day.
What's that, mate?
And bad customers aren't worth the time of day.
No, they're not. They're not. It's like bad friends. They're just going to drag you down at later on.
Yeah.
So that's what I based it on.
Yep.
And then I learned from guys like this lawn contractors, LMCA. I learned a bit from other guys in the industry. I learned a bit from, and I saw their mistakes or the good things they do, and I sort of incorporated all that into my own personality and whatever. And yeah, that's how I did it.
Yeah, I would say LMCA has been the single best resource for independent mowing contractors in Australia.
Yeah, agreed.
So, if you listened to podcasts, I'd say that podcasts are up there as well. But
I'll start. I promise. I'll start because I've got a lot of stuff on the ride on at the moment, so I need something to listen to apart from the engine.
We just need to get you set up with a set of earbuds that work well with your phone, so that you can listen while you're mowing, and you'll be right.
Well, let's get a GoFundMe happening.
Well, I'll show you what earbuds I use, and they work really well. They give you industrial hearing protection. You can get them from Ben from Catch Pro. They work well. Yeah.
Now, I definitely need something for my hearing because the machines we're using now are a bit loud.
Yeah, well, that's the beauty of it. Industrial hearing protection quality from your earbuds, I think they rate them at about 25 decibel reduction or something like that, which is pretty good.
Yeah, we'll have a crack.
Yeah.
See, something else.
That's it. But yeah, the goal of my podcast is to add value to people who want to run their lawn mowing business better, and so much the same as LMCA and all the lawn mowing communities online.
Yeah,
is to make the community a stronger place so that people learn from each other.
100%. That's why I like LMCA, because a lot of the people in the comments that are their feedback that do help you. They're not criticizing you.
Yeah.
Like I've copped a couple of you take them as a slap to the face, and then you sit there and think about it and go, okay, maybe he's got a point.
Yeah.
Like you don't dismiss anybody. But yeah, there's been other groups. There was this lawn mowing group that I joined, mate. It was just everyone taking the piss out of each other. It was just.
Well, you'll get that occasionally in any group, and I've seen it happen with LMCA occasionally too. But for the most part, like you say, you look at when you pose a question on LMCA, you might get 5 responses or you might get 50 responses, and you very quickly start filtering those responses and go, okay, I can learn from every response, but there's some that I appreciate more than others.
100%. And there's people on there like one of the lawnmowers I bought off the actual page off one of the blokes,
Nice.
and that's got me a really good contract.
Yeah.
So like good things have come from it. Daniel, I speak to him a lot, like because we got the same lawnmowers, and he's
Yep.
always giving me ideas and things like that.
Awesome. So one of the things you would have got from LMCA is a love for Skag mowers.
No, I got the love for Skag. I hope he watches this to take the piss out of somebody. To be quite honest with you,
Yeah.
I understand machinery a little bit, but the quality of things, I always try to buy the best I can afford, and I think Skag, quality wise, is quite good.
Yes.
Like I've read up a lot about them. Like their paintwork is shit, like most people have said. The deck and that just paint peels off them, which I
Okay.
do something about. But anyway, but yeah, I liked Hustler, and now I've sort of somebody I knew used Skag, and he was like Skag, blah blah blah,
Yeah.
and there was a bit of business I tried to do together, and he was a little bit snotty, like snobby, or I don't know what you call it, but
Yeah. Well, just call him Skag Family, because Skag Family are thick as thieves. They
no,
get more joy out of hanging out together than they do
no,
at
but
talking
he
about the
was
mowers.
the bastard child of Skag. Like, yeah, he's just a really strange unit. Anyway, so I got Skags just to say up yours. That honest to God, that's the truth.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And you haven't looked back though. You love it.
I do. They're good machines. They
Yeah.
are good. The only thing I'm hoping that their backup service is as good as what they've promised me. That scares me a little bit.
Well, look at the shops that are around you, and I keep
Oh,
referring to Will Harford, because Will Harford down at Rosebud, he is one of the better Skag dealers around, and I don't know if there's one closer to you than him. I'm sure there would be, but
there is, but they're new.
yeah, okay,
They're not new in the industry. They're new in the Skag.
yeah, okay,
And like for example, I had a belt get a little bit worn the other day because one of the bolts wasn't done up properly.
yeah,
And you ask him, I need a belt. Oh, excuse me.
yep,
I'd like somebody to say, "Here's the belt." But
yeah,
it's been 2 weeks now, and he's like, "Oh, I've got to look for the belt." You know, come on. If that belt had gone, I'd be out
yeah,
of a job tomorrow.
yep,
So
yeah, and
I've got to have a
that's
word.
that's one of the lessons I've learnt with particularly ride-on mowers. It's not quite as bad with a push mower, but you still need to do it if you're running around with a Honda HRU 216.
That's why I
Is
have two of them.
with a ride-on mower, having a set of belts ready to go in your trailer or in your garage at home is a lifesaver.
I try to. I do my best, but because the Skags are new, I haven't had time to really plan ahead. But with the
Yeah.
Husky, everything in the shed,
Yep.
pretty much ready to go.
Yeah. That's the way it should be.
Yeah. So,
Yep.
but we'll see. I'll get all the stuff together for that as well.
Yeah. Fair enough. So yeah, if your dealer is listening to this, he needs to make sure he's looking after you guys with your Skags so that you can have a quick turnaround on parts.
Yeah. Listen.
Well, I know there are a lot of Skag guys that will be listening, so if they can find out who it is, they'll let him know.
Fair enough. Yeah. No. Look. I don't know. I'm pretty easygoing, but backup service for me is critical.
Yeah, it is. And I've had issues with backup service because I've been in business since 2010 doing lawn mowing. And my local dealer, when I first went in there, I asked them for some parts for my ride-on mower, and they used to be the dealer for that brand of ride-on, and they'd stopped dealing with it, so they didn't want to help me.
I got the same thing.
Yep.
I got exactly the same thing. I bought the mower off the guy. I gave him the $8,000 in his hand, got the lawnmower off him. Then I ordered all my parts off him for 2 years. So it's the
Yeah.
same lawnmower. I had nothing changed. I'm not
Yeah.
going to know who it was or whatever. And then I send my son down, and he's like, "Oh, did you want the XD blades or the SD blades?" I said, "Dude, I told you 10 times they're the XD blades, and uh, you told me you've got it here." So I've sent him there to pick them up,
Yeah.
and then he comes back with the SD belt, and I'm like, "Really?" And I lost my temper that day. I went back in there and probably said a few things I shouldn't have, but
Yeah.
business closed.
It's
Like,
frustrating when you're dealing with a dealer and they can't provide that basic level of service, right? Of just getting things right, making it easy for you to stay on the road.
I can understand it if it's a 15-year-old kid they've stuck at the back of the counter
Yeah.
and no idea whatsoever. Go get your boss or whatever. But this is the owner of the joint. This
Yeah,
is
it
the
makes
guy
it
with
hard.
his face stuck at the front of the shop.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I've come across too many dealers that are like that, and it is really frustrating, isn't it?
yeah, I find the blasé attitude really annoying.
Yeah.
Like once they've got the sale or whatever, it's done with it. Like, yeah, unfortunately,
Yeah, it's not the way it should be.
no. And hopefully they listen to this and I don't know, pull their heads in.
Yeah. Fingers crossed.
But my thing's that in any industry I've been in, it's always been service. Like I think the service needs to be, whatever you do has to be top notch.
Yep.
When people
Definitely.
recognise it, you go forward better.
Yeah. That's it. It's that's what makes the difference and you find it probably around your area, but I certainly notice it Central Coast and Newcastle area. Five out of six dealers, you go in there and they are not really interested in helping contractors.
Really?
Yeah, and you'll find one that is great at looking after contractors. I think I've found two in my area that are really willing to go out of their way to look after contractors.
Well, we've got two good dealers in Pakenham,
Yeah,
and both of them are good with contractors. Like they will move things aside to get you in there quicker and all the rest of it, which I
yeah,
think needs to be done.
yeah,
Like I was actually at a store the other day, and a bloke walked in. He had a Cub Cadet he'd bought from that store.
yeah. Okay.
Not a contractor, just a household, big
Yep.
one property or whatever. And the girl was behind the counter, and she said, "Oh yeah, no worries, you can book it in."
Yep.
She goes, "It'll be about 8 weeks before
Ooh,
we can look at it." And I'm
yeah.
thinking, 8 weeks before we can look at it. And the bloke's like, "Well, do you reckon I could drop it off and get it in like a bit earlier, and then you get around to it maybe a couple?" No,
No good.
8 weeks.
This time of year, if you leave your lawnmower for 8 weeks without getting it repaired, your lawn is going to be a jungle.
It's mad.
Yeah,
To say that to a customer that spent 10 grand at least, or 8 grand or whatever.
yeah,
Like I and the guy who owns the store I'm talking about, he's a really good bloke, and he's switched on. Like he gave
yeah,
me something the other day for $20, which fitted my whippersnipper,
yeah,
and like I would have paid him 100. He's like, "Yeah, I'd take it for $20, Mark." And a friend of mine was looking for a steel chainsaw. I made him buy the chainsaw there, $300.
yeah,
Plus, I bought some other stuff. I ended up walking out $500 worth of stuff
yeah.
because of him, the owner. But the
Because he
girl,
looks after you.
he doesn't know that she told the guy to piss off for 8 weeks.
Yeah,
So I don't know. It's really hard with workers because I've had workers and I just watch them from the counter and I go, man, if I was your boss,
yep.
but yeah,
A lot of mower shops have a really slow turnaround on service like that. And that's kind of strange because if you look at their numbers can be split 50-50 between how much they make from servicing versus how much they make from selling your machinery. So you'd think that if they have good numbers from servicing, that they would invest more in making sure that it's efficient so they can capitalize
100%,
on the profit.
100%.
I get people asking all the time if battery is up to the task for everyday commercial use, and there are still plenty of people who argue that battery is simply not a good solution for contractors. So let's cover a couple of these topics. 1. Not every lawn and garden business will get a benefit from using battery tools. You should ask the questions first about what sort of tasks they will be required to do, and I'm happy to answer some of these questions about what tasks are good for battery tools and which tasks should be left for petrol tools. 2. What benefits do you want from battery tools? Some businesses will experience a greater return on investment with battery tools. This can be measured financially, but sometimes needs to be measured in reduced risks and problems too. Work health safety benefits are measurable when talking about no exhaust burns, reduced noise, and the noise being further away from the operator's ears. Vibrations in your dominant and non-dominant arm will most likely be less with battery tools, but a change in the balance of tools or poorly maintained tools can result in more vibrations to your forward-reaching arm, regardless of if it's battery or petrol power. So, some easy tools to see the benefit with battery are hedge trimmers and handheld blowers, because the list of pros and cons seriously favour the battery tool over petrol. But whippersnippers and mowers often have the pendulum where the pros disappear as the runtime requirements increase or the load increases due to long grass. If you run one battery platform, you might find you initially needed 2 or 3 batteries, and now with a whippersnipper and a mower, you require 10 or even 20 batteries to get through a whole day. This can be the line in the sand for many businesses, but one way to avoid this is to charge on the go, or bring your charger to the properties where you spend long periods of time. I've been using a number of Ego tools now, and Ego is a dedicated battery power brand. When I need commercial battery solutions, Ego has a tool and battery and charging options that allow me to focus on getting the work done, and I don't have to worry about my day. 2 staff and 6 batteries keep me out of trouble and busy working.
The margins from the servicing's way more than what they're making on the front counter.
Yeah.
100%.
So when they've got an 8-week wait, that is not good for them.
That's crazy. That is. I'd have it in and out of there within a week.
Yeah,
All you wanted was a basic servicer. I felt like saying to him, "Listen, I live in this area. Bring your mower over and I'll service it for you."
Yeah.
I genuinely felt like that for the poor old bloke.
Yeah.
To dump the oil plugs, whatever.
Yep.
So he was an old guy, like 70s, 80s.
I've had customers ask me that. So you get customers, typically they won't necessarily have their own lawn mowing equipment, but occasionally they'll be like, "Oh, do you service them as well?" And I'm like, I can understand why they're asking.
Well, that's funny you should say that. I've got a lady who I did a job for a couple of weeks ago, and she said, "Oh, my lawnmower's broken." I looked at it; it was the fuel hose was busted. I said, "I can change that for you." She goes, "Really?" I said, "Yeah, like my day off tomorrow, I'm going to go change it for her."
Yeah.
At a gesture of goodwill, because she's going to take that to a mower shop. They're going to be like, "Oh, it's $120
Yeah.
for that much hose." Like, really?
Well,
So,
it's $100 for the labour and $20 for the even $20 for the hose is still a lot.
yeah. No, the hose cost me. I think it was but that much of it cost me like $10 or something.
Yeah.
Need that much. So,
Yep.
but
Yeah.
I think in business, like goodwill is worth a lot. Just gestures of goodwill.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. And I think that is what makes our world go round. When you're looking at a service industry,
Yep.
the goodwill of your business is what people will value your business off if they're going to buy a business.
Yeah.
So you look at 2 things. You look at what are the assets the business has, or the stock that the business has if you're talking a retail business.
Yep.
What's the overheads? What's the goodwill that's getting passed on?
The only problem with our industry, though, because like I said to you before, my business is based on me.
Yeah.
If I go to sell it to somebody else, which I have bought around off a guy,
Yeah.
basically out of 35 of his clients, I lost 33 in 6 months.
Yeah, that's a bit of a tough learning experience, isn't it?
Well, it wasn't, because the background of the story is I did a couple of deals in the middle of that, and I tripled the money that I paid him for the business
Okay.
with some of the clients. Like, that's not an issue losing those. But what I found was a lot of those customers were, "Oh, Peter's such a good bloke," and blah blah blah, and they didn't even get time to know me. It was like, "No, I don't need your services." And I think sometimes, like, that's the other thing with the name. If I use Murat with um the European sort of thing, it sometimes doesn't benefit me. there's still
Yeah.
a lot of racism in that in Australia.
Yeah, for sure.
Like I've
And
actually
you,
had a guy speak to me on the phone, and then I turned up at his door, and he's like, "Who are you?" And I said, "Mark, we spoke on the phone." "Oh, you don't look like that accent." I said, "I don't know what that accent looks like." You know?
so you don't have an accent, right? You sound Australian to me.
Well, I hope so. 50 years.
Yeah. And from what I can tell, you look as Australian as the next person, but your name would catch people out.
It does catch people out. Yeah, still. Like there is another Murat on this LMCA as well. It's
Yep.
still, it's just easier to use Mark. Like
Yeah.
90% of people know me as Mark.
Yep.
But on Facebook, that's actually me. So,
Yeah. That's it. Yeah. And I see names like that come up on Facebook, and I'm like, is that their real name, or are they hiding from the government?
nothing like that.
No, not at all. So whereabouts is your country of origin for the name? Sorry, I
Turkey.
missed Turkey. Oh, yep.
Yeah, I was born in Istanbul.
So right in the middle of Europe.
Yep. Yep.
There you go.
We parents immigrated here when I was 2.
Yeah, wow.
So long time ago.
Yeah. So you wouldn't have brought any accent with you at all. You would have learnt to speak here, basically.
100%. Yeah, I still got an accent because where I used to work before with the markets and that, we used to have to change our accent to the customers.
Yep.
A lot of Europeans, Indians, Turks, Greeks, this, that. So we'd
Yeah.
change accent speaking to people.
Yeah.
So,
I find I do that too. When I'm hanging around different people, I start changing the way I talk. My kids get a bit of a laugh out of it. They're like, "What are you talking like that for, Dad?"
yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. Yeah, sometimes you've got to.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, well, I grew up when I grew up in Australia, but the first 4 years of my life I was in Pacific Islands, and I've got some Pacific Islander friends, Fijian, Tongan, etc.
yeah,
And yeah, when I'm hanging around them, I talk different.
yeah, your accent changes, doesn't it?
It does straight away.
Yeah.
And my son actually pulled me up and he said, "You're being obnoxious, Dad. You're being offensive."
You're bagging them.
And I'm like, "No, I'm not."
That's funny. How old's your kids?
So between my wife and I, we've got 4 kids. Her two from her first marriage are 25 and 23. My son's 20, and our daughter together, she's 14. She'll be 15 soon.
Nice.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
how long have you been in the mowing game?
I started in 2010. So when I started, I left a job working for an insurance company and took paid paternal leave and all of my annual leave, and it gave me over 6 months of paid leave. And then and I took a 12-month career break. So it gave me 12 months to muck around and decide whether I really wanted to stay in the business. And, I'm still here 12 years later, 13 years later.
Good on you. It's a hard game. I don't know why anybody in this industry sees anybody else as competition.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because you look at a community like LMCA and the idea of competition very quickly disappears. It's like, no, this is a great community and everyone supports each other with a little bit of niggling, but it's a supportive community. But when you drive up the street and you see somebody else mowing lawns, because you're in LMCA, you're probably like, oh, I wonder if they're in LMCA. We'll go and introduce myself. And occasionally you come across people who are like, what are you doing? Get out of my territory.
Yeah. I don't know. I haven't come across that. Yeah. I'm just thinking. No. I met a guy at one of the Ego shows who was from LMCA.
Yeah.
I can't remember his name, but yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But no, but in general, like I had this conversation on the thing. You're passing each other with the trailers on. And you're like,
Yeah.
there's some of them are like, like I slept
Yep.
with his mother.
Yeah. I had one guy in my community because I used to only work in the same suburb and the next suburbs adjoining. So, 10 minutes from home, 15 minutes from home was too far to travel.
Yeah.
And one guy put his sign up on the power pole outside my house.
That he did lawns.
Yeah. So I called his phone number, and I'd seen him around, so I knew who he was. And I said, "Hey, Denny, I just wanted to let you know your sign's out the front of my house, and I don't want people getting confused and thinking that that's my phone number and calling you expecting me to turn up."
Yeah.
I said, "You can put it on the next power pole up the street or whatever, but yeah, it's not right outside my house." And he outright had a go at me. And I was like, "Mate, I'm not trying to make enemies. I'm happy to be your friend. I just want you to move the sign down the street further."
What a unit. No, I don't know. There are some, there's some strange units. But like you said, with the LMCA thing, there's a lot more professional people that understand business. That's
Yeah.
what I like about it.
Yep.
It's not, because there are a lot of people in our industry that have no idea about business.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's one of the reasons why I do the podcast and why I want to get as much information out of you as I can, because the more people hear from people like you, and I've done 135 episodes now.
Wow.
So people listen to those 135 interviews, and they've got 135 people that are running lawn mowing businesses that they can learn from.
Yeah, that's cool.
So yeah, I typically want to tell your story. Where'd you come from? What have you done? Where are you at the moment? And then I ask the hard questions and give people the opportunity to say I don't want to answer them if they're uncomfortable. But the hard questions are how does your vehicle setup look like? What's your turnover for the year? All those sorts of things, so that people get a really good idea of what you do. And it sounds to me like you're running solo. You're not putting on employees.
No, I've got a subby with me.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, he subbies to me 2-3 days a week, and he does
Yeah.
his own.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah, no, I
So,
couldn't do it myself.
so do you run out of one vehicle? Does he come travel with you in your car?
Yeah, he comes to my joint and we leave, or he meets me on site.
Yeah.
Because
Okay.
2 days of my job is on site at one place, and the
Yeah.
other 2 I do, travel.
Yeah. Okay. So is that a commercial contract you've got, or is that a private property?
No, it's a commercial one. It's at the cemetery that I keep posting.
Yeah. Nice. I've done a cemetery before. I don't do it anymore, but you see a few people that do cemeteries, and it's interesting work, isn't it?
It's fascinating, actually.
Yeah.
It
It's a
is.
little bit morbid the first time you see the ground cracked up around the graves, or you see the soil gets so waterlogged that you can sink into the ground.
Oh, mate, we've had days where basically I feel like I'm being sucked under. Like it gets really wet there because it's surrounded by farmland.
Yeah.
So a lot of the water does come in,
Yep.
and it can get a bit weird. But it's good. It's really good. It's a very peaceful place to work,
Yeah.
and
And
I think it grounds you a bit too, knowing that that's where you're going.
I think that it's really good for your mental health to be grounded like that and to go, you know what? We're all going to end up in the same place. It doesn't matter what you've done in this life. Sooner or later, all going to end up there.
I actually do think that if people understood it and spent a bit of time in places like that, it does ground you a lot better into what you're doing and where you should be thinking instead of the petty shit that goes around.
Yeah, that's it.
And like when you see a family come in there, they bury someone
Yeah.
and walking off, and 10 minutes later, they're all smiling and laughing as they've walked off from burying someone. So you
Yeah.
forgot pretty quickly, so make the most of it.
I've seen a family member turn up. They walk up to the grave, and before they even get to the grave, they've been chased away by magpies. It's like that's not such a good experience for them, but it was entertaining for me. And I've seen an old lady turn up to visit her husband's grave, and she literally sunk up to her knees in mud.
No way.
So, yeah, she took it pretty well, but was starting to wonder whether she was going in to visit him.
No, it's a good place. It's a really good place to work. It grounds me very
Yeah,
well.
it is good.
Yeah.
So you do that 2 days a week?
Yeah, well, originally it was 1 day a week.
Yeah.
And then I had a convo with the guy that I work with, or for, whatever you want to call it. I don't know what I do with the guy anyway, but
Yeah.
and then I said, well, instead of you constantly hiring idiots, basically, to
Yeah.
do a job that they're not capable of doing, I said, give me an extra day and let me do the work.
Yep.
And he's like, you sure you can do it? I said, I've done it for 2 years now, that what I promised you at the beginning.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't I be able to do it? Because originally when I started there, because I like problem solving,
Yep.
like solutions to problems.
Yeah.
And I've done it all my life from childhood. And, you know, when I first started there, they're like, how many guys are on your crew? I said, me and my son.
Yeah.
And he's like, that's not enough. I said, why? He goes, oh, you need 5, 6 guys to do this job. I said, hey. And I'm like, well, that's all I've got, but I can hire some others if you want, like, you know. And then my son and I sat down, we thought about it and said, okay, we need at least another 2 or 3 to get the place into where we have to get it, like looking.
Yeah.
And it was really run down. So we hired 3 others to come with us, and we had 5. And once we got it all, you know, into the condition that it should have been at the beginning, it was just really bad. Like I'm talking grass up to here past the tombstones.
Yeah.
And
It's not
once we
surprising.
got into the thing, the big head office came to the site and looked at it, and they said, brilliant.
Yeah.
This is what we want.
Yeah.
So, yeah, basically now it's just me and Corey, the bloke that works with me.
Nice.
So we keep looking good.
Yep. So with your rig set up, you run a ute and a trailer?
Yeah, I got a ute and a trailer, and I just got another trailer made, but I stuffed up on the measurements. It was supposed to carry 2 ride-ons, but I
Yeah,
stuffed
okay.
the width, and it's 10 centimeters short. So
Oh,
now I've
no.
got a trailer,
Yeah.
and then I'm not sure, but I've done a deal with them where I've got a container on site, so I can lock up all my gear in there.
That's a good way to do it. When you've got a site where you're there 2 days a week, it makes it a lot easier to manage that.
And I don't want to be dragging a 72-inch mower around with me anyway.
Fair
Like, I don't
enough.
have any jobs that are that big.
Yeah. And I guess if you do get more jobs where you need to move the mower around, then you'll have to review that.
Buy a trailer.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
it.
one that,
Yeah, so you've got a 72-inch mower.
yeah. I haven't got it yet. The one that I've shown videos of, that's a 62 or 61 or whatever.
That's your Skag.
Yeah, that's the Skag. But I ordered the 72, but they didn't have it in stock, so they let me this one until mine comes.
Okay, yep. And the other mower you use for carting around is a Hustler?
Yeah, I've got a Hustler 42 XD.
Yep.
Which I use every day. Like that's my bread and butter.
The 42-inch mower is such a classic size for Australian conditions. It seems they're easy for people to put on a 6x4 trailer. They're good size for getting around older residential areas. You go into newer residential areas and you're stuck with struggling to get a 21-inch push mower down backyard. But in the older residential areas, the 42-inch is great.
Yeah, 100%.
Yep.
Yeah, I've had that like 512 hours on it today.
Yeah, nice.
I bought it in, and apart from the deck breaking the other day, which I posted some stuff on about, welded that up and put it back on. It's been a great mower.
Yeah, so 500 hours on the Hustler. That I'm just thinking those mowers are probably semi-commercial, so they're probably good for 1,000 hours before they start to become more burdensome.
I probably agree.
Whereas your 72-inch Skag, when it turns up, they're probably a 4,000-hour machine.
Let's see. Let's see. I'll tell you later.
Yeah. Well, I think if you're mechanically minded, and I know I've seen you do a fair bit of your own work, like you say, you do your own servicing, do a fair bit of stuff yourself. So being mechanically minded, you're going to look after it better than some people would. I would say if it's not getting looked after, it might struggle to get 2,000 hours out of it. But if it's being well maintained, you might get 4,000.
A classic one is the XD Hydro. Like I knew they had hydro gears in that, but I didn't know about the servicing.
Yeah.
I sort of thought I'll take it to the shop and get it done. And I thought, have a crack at it. Like Google it. So I sat there with the phone,
Yeah.
and did it, and it was amazing. Once I got back on, it was like having a brand new mower. Once I dumped that oil out, the fluid, and got the air out of the system,
Yeah.
it was unbelievable.
So with the XD, they're going to be a sealed system, or have they got a filter on the bottom?
No, there's no filter on the hydro.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
No, there's no filter.
That's what I thought with that model range. I didn't think they'd have a filter on them. So you really do need to change the oil to clean it up.
Mate, it was unbelievable. Like the difference in the feel of it. You sort of,
Yeah.
because you're driving it for 200 hours, you don't really know
Yeah.
how it got.
Yep.
And then once you dump that oil and you get the air out and all the rest of it, and you get on it, you go, shit, I didn't even know it was this fast.
It's like a new mower feel, isn't it?
It is 100%. If I notice it, I know I've done a good job.
Yeah,
So,
that's it.
But it's the same as what we said before. You take it down to the local mechanic and they're, oh, no, we're busy for 2 weeks, mate, or whatever. You have to learn.
Yeah, that's
like,
it.
You have to put yourself. Otherwise, you're not going to get it done.
Yep, that's right.
So, and
So
Google.
that's what I found in my area. There's one mower dealer that specializes in looking after contractors.
Yeah.
So I know if I call them and I say, hey, I need a service done, and book it in, it gets done and it's back. And that is revolutionary. It's not often that you find a dealer that will actually look after contractors that well.
No, we used to have an old bloke here up the road. He used to do the same thing. He had a big, I won't mention names and that, but he had a big joint who got taken over by the bigger guys. But he was great. Like, yeah, drive it in, up on the hoist, take the wheels off. The old school, done. What do I owe? It's $100. Like, to get you back on the road, like he knows you're earning from it. But the attitude, not many people get it anymore, or they don't want to get it anymore.
That's it.
That's what I think it is. They just don't care.
Yep, 100%. And I think, like I said, a lot of dealers specialise in looking after homeowners rather than commercial contractors. And even then, they don't do a great job. But yeah.
And in fairness to them too, that I don't think it's like any industry. They don't train their staff properly.
Yeah.
Like whether it be from the back end where the mechanic is all the way to the front, I don't think they train their staff properly to do the job. I think they just, chuck them in there and away they go. Like I can tell the difference straight away if a guy, he's, either he's done mowing or whatever, or I'm talking to somebody that has no idea whatsoever, especially when you walk, what size engine is that? Oh, I'm not really sure. But you're selling mowers.
I've noticed this in our industry as well as in mowing dealers. So when you're talking about you or me going from working solo to putting on our first employee, it's a massive learning experience. And I'm guessing because you've had staff in the carpet business, you would have learned quite a lot about looking after employees already.
I learned a lot. This is the biggest saying somebody told me when I started in business when I was 20. They said any worker is going to steal either your money or they're going to steal your time. They're going to steal. There's no such thing as a worker that's not going to steal. It's just what you limit them to stealing.
Yeah. So you look at what I've learnt with putting on employees and what the mower shops are doing as well. And it's like, okay, if you don't value your employees and you don't treat them right, then don't expect to get good employees. And going back to what you're saying, like if you don't have clear expectations around what their responsibilities are, then they're not going to do a good job and they will either steal your time or steal your money.
That's exactly what's happening in 99% of industries.
Yeah.
They're
you look at McDonald's, right? They have a system, and Jim's Mowing has done a pretty good job of this as well. I've got a lot of respect for Jim's Mowing and Fox franchises.
I have a lot of respect for that guy, yep.
But McDonald's has made the franchise model spectacular because the training for their employees is all about how to run systems. So you bring on somebody. You bring on somebody into your mowing business. The first thing you want to do is say, here's the expectations. This is what's expected from your job. You deliver your end, I deliver my end of paying you well. looking after you.
Whereas you can take that one step further, where I had to sign a waiver that because I was working at a petrol station that I wouldn't drink the fuel.
Look, sometimes work health safety is not common sense.
It's a little bit overboard, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, you see some crazy ones.
But yeah, you're right. You've got to teach them. Simple as that. If you're not training them properly, you're the one to blame. If the guy in the knew how many sales he loses because of the lack of teaching, and he just stuck someone there because he needs numbers of people in the shop so things don't get knocked off. He's got no idea what he's losing. That's why sometimes I want to pull them aside and say, hey, I've got 30-something years experience in retail. This is what you're doing wrong.
Yeah.
But then I go, just shut up. Nobody wants to.
Yeah, I look at it talking to people like yourself and people that are not like you, that have never had experience employing somebody before, and you look at the way they treat employees. And I know you referred to having a subby, but a lot of people, when they get their first employee, they don't call them an employee. They're like, no, this is my helper or my offsider or whatever else. And it's like, straight up, you're not actually treating them like an employee. They're not going to act like an employee. And one person I spoke to recently was talking about their employee as if they're a friend, and their friend keeps on taking advantage of them. And it's like, well, stop treating them like a friend. Treat them like an employee. You've got expectations. You're expected to turn up. You're expected to turn up not under the weather and not under the effects of alcohol. Expect to turn up and do the job.
Yeah, but the way I structured it with the guy I'm with as a subby, the reason why I did it as well, because he wanted his own business.
Yep.
So I helped him to set it up in a way where he can do his 2 days a week or 1 day a week or work on a Sunday or whatever.
Yeah.
Properly.
Yep.
And he can work with me to cover his ass during the week.
Yeah, that's pretty smart. And I think there's a good case for doing that. But a lot of times on LMCA, you see the advice given out too freely of put them on as a subby, then you don't have to pay their super.
No. That's not the reason. That's a part of it. But
Yeah.
he's only 22. I wanted to teach him because he said, I want to do my own business. I said, well, this is how you do it. You need you need insurance. You need this. You need that. This is the bank accounts you need. These are the invoice books you need. So I went through all that with him.
Yeah. So you're doing it in a way that's teaching him how to set his own business up properly. Whereas a lot of people put on a subby simply because they don't have to process their super or their tax.
Yeah, but if I told this guy now, like loyalty-wise, I treat him. I don't treat him as a worker. I treat him as an equal, but I'm in charge on that day.
Yep. Yeah.
So
awesome.
I treat him like we're here, but when it comes to him looking after my equipment and all the rest of it, he looks after everything.
Yeah.
Like me as well. So I've taught him a lot that he's thankful for.
I've had a similar arrangement with a friend who was in business, and it was convenient for us to share jobs, and that therefore you subcontract to each other.
Yeah.
And worked well.
Yeah, well, I had it with one other guy who was very greedy, and didn't work well.
Yeah, I've had that experience too.
And I used to call him the brain surgeon. And if he does listen to this, you know who you are, because he wanted to charge like a brain surgeon.
Yeah, fair enough.
So,
but
no, yeah. So
yeah. So in your experience now with lawn mowing, you've learnt quite a lot of things in terms of how to run a lawn mowing business. You already had a business experience beforehand.
Yep.
So I've talked a lot on the podcast, and you'll see me occasionally commenting on LMCA about this as well, in terms of the amount people should make. And I talk about telling people to analyze their numbers rather than just what they're quoting for the job, but how much do you want to make out of that job for the whole year? How much do you want to make when you work for a month, when you work for a year, when you work for a day, when you work for a week? Break your numbers down into those different amounts and go, okay, if you want to turn over as a solo person enough money to be comparable to working for a job somebody else, you want to be able to put in the bank afterwards, somewhere between $70,000 and $80,000, then that's comparable to somebody just going and working for someone else. And
Yep.
in order for you to do that in a lawn mowing business, you need to be turning over $120,000 to $150,000.
Yep.
So yeah, and then I spend a lot of time talking to people about, okay, if it's say $120,000 a year, that's $10,000 a month, that's $2,500 a week, that's $500 a day. If you're doing it consistently, so aim higher, aim for $600 to $1,000 a day, so that you actually end up averaging that $500 a day.
Yep.
But yeah, so how does your business look when I'm talking about those numbers? Do those numbers sound similar to what you're working around?
Pretty much that's where I'm at the moment.
Yeah. Okay.
Your figures are pretty spot on with what my where I'm happy to be. If I want to go further, I can.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. If I wanted to look for more work and get another car, another trailer, and here, take the lawnmower, do these 5, whatever, I'm just not interested anymore.
Yeah. Those numbers I've used there, they are great for separating out the small jobs from the big jobs, because if you're at the cemetery for 2 days a week,
Yep.
you don't have to charge more per hour because you're in one place. So you don't have unbillable travel time and lost time and all those things. But then on the other hand, when you're doing a big job like that, you need to account for that big 72-inch mower working for 5 hours straight rather than only doing 1.5 hours or 2 hours for the whole day.
Yep. Even down to fuel costs.
It does even out, but you've also got to be smart about looking at it and looking at what the costs are of being in business. Am I doing a lot of travel? Do I have a really big ride-on that costs more to maintain than a Honda 216?
Well, that's like even when I hear some guys like, I did 20 jobs today, and I'm like, fuck, to run around to 20 jobs, how long does that take? Like, what, 12 hours I've been working today. And I used to have a friend of mine, actually, he used to do incredible figures, but incredible hours.
Yeah.
But he put into consideration his car, his fuel, nothing. But he used to just run around like a nut job. Where are you? You know, like 100 kilometres away from his house. I'm like, what are you doing out there? I've got a job. So you've got to factory all that stuff.
Yeah.
You know, like properly.
Yeah.
Down to kilometres, how much a kilometre it cost you to service your car.
And I guess that's why looking at those numbers holistically allows you to make room for those things. So if you know you're going to do a lot of travel in a day, you still want to make $1,200 for the day or $800 for the day or whatever it might be. And you're okay, if I'm going to travel and do 300 kilometers, then I'm going to have less hours I can work. So I've got to charge more per hour.
Yep.
So that's one of the things I'd look at. And, okay, you can do jobs that are 15 minutes per job, or you can do jobs that are 2 days a week. But you need to think about it and work out how that relates to your profit margin, paying employees if you're putting on employees.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. So
your figures are correct.
Yeah, I think they're pretty close, and there's always variables, right? One business might say they want to do $120,000 a year per person that's working. Another person might say they want $150,000 per year, and I think with the cost of living being as crazy as it is at the moment, some people are pushing higher than $150,000 a year.
I think the way the cost of living is, you're going to have to. Like, there's no... what you think you're earning, you're just going backwards. Like CPI and all the rest of it, that's gone out the window. There's no CPI.
CPI was around 2 to 3%, and then
there's no such thing anymore. Like in Europe, they're used to it, but we're not used to this.
Well, since COVID, we've had 7 or 8% increase year after year.
Yeah, but if you came from Turkey, you have 100% increases every year. Nobody gives a shit about it. Like we're talking crazy figures of inflation.
Yep.
So yeah, we're copying it now. We just have to get used to it, I guess, and act accordingly.
Yeah.
Either you cut back your spending or you make more. There's no other way.
Yeah. And I think I see the push and pull with this, because on the one hand, you want to stay ahead of the curve, and you want to make sure that you're profitable, not just putting money in the bank for the wage that you would earn, but you want to make sure you're drawing a profit from your business as well.
For sure.
Then you've got to push pretty hard when it comes to inflation to make sure you stay ahead of the curve.
Yep.
But the pushback against that is that occasionally I look at it and I go, you know what? If I want to make sure I'm not another statistic, I need to perhaps pull back a little bit on pushing my prices up sometimes and go, okay, if I've got like you got a big contract where you're there for a couple of days a week, if I put my price up too much on that big contract, that's a lot of work to lose.
If you do it in a greedy way, you
Yeah.
know, like what the government does to us, yeah. But if you do it in a fair kind of way, like a 5% increase or a 10% increase in the contract, that's a part of business. They're happy with that.
That's right.
Yeah, and depending on who it is, if you've got a good job that the guy's good and all the rest of it, think, you know what, I don't really need that 10%. Then let it go.
Yeah.
That's my opinion on it.
Yep.
Like, you can be a little bit too greedy as well.
Definitely.
Like, I'll tell you a quick story. There was a lady I used to sell some rugs to, and I used to sell them to her for 70. She used to sell them for 140. And I thought, that's a good margin. Like, she's making $70, and I think the wholesale was around 30, 35. So I was still making around 100% as well.
Yeah.
So there was a margin for everybody. And she goes, I can't buy your rugs. I said, why is that? She said, because I can get them for 60 from somebody else. And, yeah, but they're not the same. Like, they're similar. They're not the same. She goes, yeah, but every time I sell one for 140, I feel like I lost $10 if I buy yours. Like, what a mentality. Instead of being happy with the $70 you're making, she's worried about that $10 extra she's got to pay.
Yep.
At the wholesale rate.
Yeah.
I think what I'm sort of getting at, some people worry about what they're going to lose before they worry about what they're going to make.
Yeah. And I think, like you say, there's a thing being too greedy there. And the counter argument there is when you're selling your service to a customer, some people might say that's $25 mo. And, you know, we've all got to have a laugh at the last guy that charges $25 per cut. But when you're looking at the customer's point of view, are you offering them value for money? So if you're talking about that Persian rug, for instance, hearing that it's worth $30 on the wholesale market, it's like, oh, that's a crime to be selling it for $140 at retail. But if she's selling that for $140 to her customers and they look at it and they go, well, we can see the quality there, then they're willing to pay for the quality of having a genuine Persian rug. But if they turn around and they look at the one that you said that she could get from somebody else, and they look at it and they go, oh, there's a little bit of a frayed thread here and there, or the thread count doesn't look quite as good. But she's still charging $140 for it. She's not going to make as many sales because she's not offering the customer as good of a quality.
But that's why she's not in business anymore.
Yeah.
Simple as that. And it's the same with the lawn mowing. Like, I've had customers where they've said, you know, oh, the last guy, like everyone's had the last guy. I said, that's the last guy did that. I said, I'll do my job, no charge. What do you mean no charge? I said, I'll do it for free. I said, let me finish the job. Look at the way I do it. And one guy actually said to us, there was two of us on site, and he come out of the door, flew out of the door, and he's looking around like this. And I said, what are you looking for? He goes, how many of you are here? I go, just two of us. He goes, far out, mate. He goes, I thought there was at least 5 or 6 of you the way you guys move. Because I'm so fast, because we're so fast.
Yeah.
And like, I still want the rate at the hour, even if I finish it in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
I don't really care. But as long as my quality of my work is satisfactory to you. But then you got the other flip of the coin where they don't give a shit what the edges look for and all the rest of it. But they're not long-term customers. For me, they're not.
Yeah, they're not valuable customers because they're not willing to pay what it's worth. So I guess that's that's what I keep going back to is, are you offering them value? And if you're offering them a quality of service that is above and beyond what their expectations are, that's not value for them because they still want it for $25.
Yeah, well, that ain't going to happen.
No. So it's the wrong person to be your customer.
Yeah, exactly. There's no long-term prospect.
Yeah. The person who's sick of dealing with the $25 job and knowing that the person doesn't turn up for 2 months in the middle of the growing season, and sick of them not returning their calls, and they want their lawn to be kept tidy so that it stays a lawn instead of just weeds.
Yep.
They're going to look at your job and they're going to go, you know what? This person knows what he's doing. He does good quality work. What's it worth to pay for it? And that's where you're starting to offer them value.
100%. Yeah.
Much like the Persian rug, the quality speaks for
Well,
itself.
it is at the end of the day. Yeah. Mate, we're on the same page. And I think a lot of the LMCA guys are on the same page. The ones that are,
Yeah.
they do like doing a quality job, not just a quick job for a quick buck. Long-term, prospects.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, it's been great talking to you, Mark. I think we've covered things pretty well. But is there anything you feel like we haven't covered?
No, not really. I think we covered more than I thought we were going to cover, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Well, I think we've given people a pretty good idea of what your business looks like. If there's anything about your business that we haven't covered, then you can do that. But the question I want to...
One question, which I answered a long time ago, and I reckon I'm curious how many LMCA people would be able to answer it. What is the most important thing in business?
So you're asking me?
Yeah, I'm asking you or whoever else wants to answer it.
Yeah.
What is the most important thing in business?
Yeah, okay.
The top. Like, I'm not talking, finances, money, blah, blah, blah. I'm talking what's the top? And I answered this question at 17 years old. I was in a meeting at a Toyota conference, and I answered this question sitting next to multi-millionaire guys. I was 17 years old. I answered it correctly.
Yeah.
And the guy freaked out. He's like, everybody else had a crack at it. They said, I don't know, finances, advertising, this, that, blah, blah, blah. They were all throwing these things out, and I was sitting in the background, and I just went, I've got an idea what it is, but I was a bit shy at 17 years old.
Yeah.
And I answered it for him, and he just nearly fell over that this kid at 17 knew it. Do you know what it is?
I want you to answer this. I've got my own thought on it.
Trust.
Yeah.
Just that word, trust.
Yeah. So my thought on what's the one thing that's important in business is to be able to continue. And I guess trust is vital to continuing, right? Like if you open the doors and your customers want to keep coming back and they refer you word of mouth to other people, that gives you the opportunity to continue, and that is built on trust.
It all comes down to that one word, though.
Yeah.
It all comes back to trust.
Yep.
That's the key to business.
Yep.
Pure and simple.
It's an easy one to lose. It's an easy one to...
Very hard to earn.
Yeah.
But
definitely.
very hard to lose. And that's what we were saying before with the mower shops and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
Like, you give them your trust, you buy the mower off them and all the rest of it, and then they turn around and say, who are you?
Yeah, that's it.
I've got a lot of customers. Why don't you know the part number for the belt you need? Well, how would I know the part number to the belt, man? I bought the mower off you. You should know the... Yeah, it's easy to lose.
That's it.
So, but yeah, great chatting with you.
Yeah. So I've got one question for you before we finish up.
Sure.
If you can offer advice to the people that are listening to this, and I think what you've already said about trust is invaluable, but if you can offer advice to somebody starting a lawn mowing business.
Don't do
it. Okay.
Mate, there's not one bit of advice. There's too much.
Yeah.
And all businesses are the same. But the thing I find with a lot of people in business, they give up very easy.
Yeah.
I've got a good friend of mine. He's a very hard worker, but he's done from being a chef to a toilet cleaner to a lawnmower guy to whatever.
Yeah.
But he persisted in the one thing and really just stuck it out and rode it out like I have. My business is, I didn't inherit money off people to start my. I worked my ass off from here to keep pushing up. I get knocked and knocked and knocked and knocked and all the rest of it, but it's persistence.
Yeah.
Like if you're that type of person to get, I'll give that up and I'll go back to the factory or whatever. And you see it on Shark Tank and that they're always saying the same thing.
Yep.
Like, what have you got in the game? Like, why? Have you left your job to do this business? No, I'm still working. Well, how are you going to get this business up and running? Because for me, the lawn mowing started on a part-time basis because I was bored. Like I was only working 4 days a week. But as soon as 2019 hit and I lost the business and, COVID decided to take the rest of my savings and all the rest of it, I said, let's kick it up a gear. Yeah. And that's when I got the mowers and the Ferrari and I started talking to Daniel and the cemetery and all this stuff happened because I kicked myself in the ass to, go further.
I think the one thing that brings a lot of people into the lawn care industry that only stay for a short period of time is because it's got such a low barrier to entry. Anybody can grab 3 tools, chuck them in the back of their Kia Rio, and off they go.
That's it.
So, you spent $1,000 by the time you get a cheap mower and whippersnipper and blower from Bunnings, and you're a lawn mowing contractor.
Yeah. I've heard of a lady who I went to quote a job, and it was $200 job. And I said, 200. And she goes, oh, thank God. She goes, I pulled the ride on off the back to do it.
Yeah.
Thank God. She goes, the other guy turned up with a electric mower and asked me where to put the plug in. Like I take the property.
Yeah.
And I'm like, for real? I thought she was taking the piss. And she's like, yeah. So you're right. You can just turn up, ask them for electric these days.
Yeah. So it's good that people can start with a low barrier to entry because it means that anybody can do well with a lawn mowing business, but there are a lot of people who start because it's such a low barrier to entry and they don't have the persistence, they don't have the ambition, and they don't last, or they only do it for beer money on a Sunday.
Mate, my sister told me during COVID, she has a waxing business.
Yep. And
she's been doing it for nearly 20 years now.
Yeah.
And she told me, she said, because I was struggling with COVID and all the rest of it and mentally and that. And she said to me, we've got to 2024. Where are we at now?
Yeah, that's it. 2024.
Making sure, because the last 4 years disappeared for me.
Yeah.
Just go. She said out of her clients, a lot of their husbands, they started this lawn mowing gig. And she goes, not one of them survived. She goes, they've all gone back to work and all the rest of it.
Yep.
Yeah. So, I don't know what bit of advice, except you got to be persistent. You've got to want to do it.
That is very valuable advice.
That's all I can give you.
Look, thanks for your time. Let's finish up there. Thank you, Mark.
No worries, mate.
Thank you for listening to Aussie LawnStars. Please remember to rate and review the show on the Apple Podcasts app or the player you use. Exciting new shows are released every Monday. Make sure you follow or subscribe to hear the next episode.